Well, welcome back to Assassination Arcturian Philosophy. As you can see, it's still daylight. If you've encountered these things about light and dark and been abducted or been experimented on or being followed and chased around by the government or being a type of prisoner of some sort, well, I don't seem to be a prisoner exactly. I seem to be a prisoner that people repeatedly attempt to kill, and then I survive it, and they attempt to re-engineer things almost. I realized it was I realized who I was up against exactly with this, or what primary minds I was up against. I knew it was something big, but I wasn't exactly sure, who exactly am I dealing with when these things happen. What happen are they, the dark forces, the pervading hacking force, whatever you want to call, the archons. Um, that's it, the archons, the pervading hacking force. I was thinking about this and I got suddenly Metatron, and I'd already figured out Metatron thinking computer, but not and also Overmind, but not that it was like the Overmind, like in all the AI movies, the AI type movies, you walk into a main room of some sort, and then, oh, this is so and so, the and we call her by whatever name or something. Usually it's a she or whatever, and something like that. Like, so it's like, okay, that's where the Metatron thing is. It's like this central mainframe of some kind. Um, and when the hint that I got, I didn't record it. I just sort of talked into space because the people that I was talking to were just people that can hear around here. Um, and also, through all kinds of means that you would not even imagine that you can be spied upon, things you would not even imagine if you did not become exposed to this. But Kron gave me a little bit of a hint where um, I was talking about programs, or Satan as a program, and I was saying in the one video, well, why would the Lord need you to mark the door with blood or anything? Because he's God. He's going to know who you are anyway. And all of you Luciferians know that. So, why the heck were the Jews being told, mark your door? Well, instant answer that I think of, and that I think other people think of, that I feel, is testing loyalty. For you type 8s, you test loyalty all the time, so it seems like a good thing to do. But if you're testing loyalty by, like, hurting people, it's not a good thing to do. Like Abraham and Isaac. Hey, kill your kid for me. I'm testing your loyalty. Yeah, does that sound like a good test of loyalty to you guys? You type 8s that test loyalty? That sounds like one really messed up test of loyalty right there. And I don't think also type 8s are completely compulsive about their children. So, type 8s that are like, yeah, test loyalty, and number 8 and everything, right? Kill your kid for me. Whoa. That's the reaction that you get from your type 8, your typical type 8. Even your programmed one would react because they're usually so on top of their children. What am I wearing? Because I know what I'm dealing with. There were things, let's just say there were things that I had noticed during the first, like, big getting, like, kind of screwed around with. Not screwed around with, almost murdered. There were things that I noticed that I knew could be changed, that I knew I could change somehow, but I was too incapacitated to attempt to change them, and simply had to manage to figure a way around them. But now, I have the capacity to change them, and there are certain things that I'd been, told to do before this, or things along that nature, um, and so now it seems like yes, that's how that's how it that's how this goes here. So I'm deliberately, even your own clothing can be a hazard. Um, your own accessories can be hazards. So those are things best not worn. Um, one thing with Kron keep telling me, like, this is something. Yeah, at first he just said, just sit there and listen to it as well with my soul. It just sit there and listen to it as well with my soul. You're going to figure this out. You're going to be okay. And then I got up and I thought, wait, there are things that I know I can change around that make it harder for them to do things. At least if I can't stop it, I can make it harder for them. I can slow them down. But then suddenly, and as I started to look around, and my eyes were pulled to different things, and I saw, I'm dealing with Walter White here, and Walter White's Puppet Master. But, in Breaking Bad, I know you probably did not watch Breaking Bad, but you could watch it quickly if you wanted to. In Breaking Bad, the very last episode of Breaking Bad, you have Walter White, who is like me, like what you've watched me do with random objects and things, and all of that alchemical knowledge that is just all in your head, and you do it, all the math right in your head, and bam, 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 bam. And also, if you watch the show, he is acting in the show. Completely acting. He's not actually a smart guy, apparently. It's like Keanu Reeves. It's like that, sort of, but not as bad. It's not as bad. It's not nearly as bad like that. But if you listen to what he's saying, all the chemistry is correct. All of it's correct. Even though I don't quite understand that exactly, I would hear things and I would hear, yes, I recognize that. I know that's correct. I remember that's correct, even though I would not know the theories or whatever behind it. The last episode. See, Walt, the main character, Walter is really, really mad at his younger sidekick. Kind of the cool kid with a drug problem, Jesse. And over the series, Jesse is a very dynamic character. He starts off and he is a total junkie. But then he's speed freak, and then he also gets into heroin. Then he manages to get himself out of that because he didn't dabble in it too much. He doesn't get himself strung out exactly, and manages to stop before he's strung out. And of course, Walter can't understand it. He's disgusted, but he still needs Jesse for different things that he does not understand from a literal physical interaction standpoint, and also business type standpoint or financial kind of standpoint, because the reason Walt kind of went evil was because he was so poor. So poor, and his ideas were all stolen from him. There was a corporation that was made based off of all of his chemistry, and it was called Gray Matter. That was because his last name was White, and the other founder's last name was Schwarz. Or I should say that better, Schwarz. Black in German. And so Walt is thinking, they were thinking, what should we name our company? And they didn't have any money freely, but they knew the potential. They knew what they were. They knew their ideas were going to change the world if they could pull it off. Particularly, it was Walt, and the other guy had the money, the startup money. They were both chemists, but the other guy was not nearly as good, not nearly as intellectual with it, or bionic with the chemistry, as the rap goes. Was not nearly as talented, and Walt ends up saying, "I'll take a buyout," or we could say a sellout. And he's paid $500 to leave the company, leave their startup company with literally no credit, except in like almost the last episode, second to last episode, you find out what did he do for them besides do everything, as in their thinking. Oh, he came up with the name. In addition to doing the freaking thinking, gray matter, gray between the two of them combined, and he comes up with it in a very intellectual way, and they think, yeah, it's a great name, and all of your great chemistry, and we stole it from you, and we didn't give you a dime, is what happened to him. So when the opportunity to, quote, break bad to make crystal meth came upon him, he started to slowly change. He meets his sidekick, Jesse, who is someone who he had taught in school at one point, which is why he recognizes him. And he sees Jesse is cooking meth. And he says, based off of your test scores, I remember you. Based off of yours, I would never have expected this, but this is a mess. You don't know what you're doing here. You have to use this message, all this stuff. And of course, there's a really funny episode, the really funny scene. Everyone loves this scene where I don't remember what Walt actually did, but it's where Jesse says, "Yeah, Mr. White, yes, science." Everybody loves that scene, as well as the scene "You're gonna need me," where they're about to kill him, but he looks at him and he says, what is it, 5121 want? I remember want to bow, just because the way he says it is so great. It's 4-digit address, want to bow Avenue, apartment number something. They were training another chemist, or actually he was technically training another chemist to take over for him. But wasn't training him to take over. He was not training him exactly. He was the assistant. He was the assistant. And he realized that the people in charge were going to try and kill him off because he was so badass with his thinking, that they wanted to try and use someone more subservient to them instead, who wouldn't really think for themselves and just sort of do what they're told. And people know what happened, or if you're like one of the cyborgs watching this, you can just kind of look up that scene or whatever. It's really that's the ending of season 3. It's the last episode of season 3. It's a good one. It should be, season 3. But at the very end, season 5? End of season 5. Finally, Jesse, the sidekick who's no longer junkie, he slowly evolves after what happens at the end of season 3, into season 4. He slowly evolves. It's called a dynamic character versus a static character. So both Jesse and Walt are dynamic, but they're dynamic in reverse directions. Walt becomes evil. Jesse starts off all evil, not evil, but he starts off, misguided, and then takes the straight and narrow path. And he stops using all the drugs that he was using, except he'll still smoke pot, but he stops using all the hard drugs, and for the most part doesn't even really smoke too much anymore. What Cryon did say is that, they did technically give Jesus some wine on the cross, and you're in a decent degree of pain anyway. So you should not feel bad about this, plus you know that you're going to run out, and that you're not going to buy anymore because you know that randomly disappear if you bought more on a night like this. Then at the very end, what happens is Jesse goes to, he finally ends up getting caught and saying, look, I'll cooperate with you guys because you don't understand. This guy's gone crazy. You gotta stop him. He's gone effing crazy. You gotta stop him. And he tells them what he knows. When Walt gets wind of this, by the time Walt has figured this out in season, doing this, season 4 and season 5, he's so nuts that he outright wants to murder Jesse, like straight up kill him. But every time he's just presented with the opportunity to just do it, he stops, he hesitates. Just like the movie Killing Season, the American who was going to shoot their Russian but then hesitated, and instead shot him in the shoulder, and he lived. And then they got into a huge fight afterwards, and then they just decided to go their separate ways because it was stupid, and neither could beat the other. But at the end of Breaking Bad, what happens is Walt is still acting like he's on this tirade to kill Jesse, because Jesse said, look, this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. Walt said, you wanted to know what kind of business I'm in? I'm in the Empire business. And Jesse said to him, well, is a meth empire really something to be proud of? By the time they're all said and done, Walt has to kill a bunch of people, or they'll kill him. And these people also are holding Jesse hostage because they manage to get a hold of Jesse. They're so mad at him that he told on them, and he gets taken as a prisoner by this gang, basically, and forced to work as a chemist in the lab. Their lab, which is really not nearly as good as the other lab they were in, but he's forced to do it and chained up to the ceiling along a sliding rail so that he can walk along the lab. And he's in prison doing this. And at the very end, Walt wants to murder him. He wants to just his murderous rage. But he rigs up his car. He figures out the most interesting things to do with anything. And he rigs up his trunk with a machine gun. And he sets his car key buzzer, not buzzer, but your remote control for your car. And he hooks it up and wires it to open the trunk and shoot the machine gun. Except we don't know that when we're watching it, which is what made it really cool. So he's in there. We know he's done something to his trunk, but we don't know what it is. And he's in there. Some stuff goes wrong. Things are a little weird. He gets his keys pushed away from him, and he manages to finally reach his way back and grab him, and bam, hits the thing. Everyone, as he slams, and then he runs. Jesse is there, and he's he's saying that he's, so mad Jesse, he wants to kill him. He starts yelling. He actually gets, that's how he gets his keys back. He gets his keys back by starting a fight. He starts saying, well, I want to talk with him. You promised that you'd kill him for me, and he's still alive. What are you doing? And But what you don't know is that the entire time he's just acting. He changed his mind somehow. And so then, as he's arguing, he reaches his hand back, manages to grab his keys, and then just lunges forward onto Jesse like he's trying to beat the shit out of him. And then right there, the one guy starts laughing like, ah, look at that go, it's pathetic. Like, ah, we're gonna smoke them both. And right then, he hits the button, and the entire place just gets shot up. Every single person dies, and then Walt, after the whole thing stops, all the clips are done. There's silence, and Walt gets up off of Jesse, but you can see that Walt got hit. He could still walk, but it looked like it could go either way on him. You weren't quite sure what was going to happen. And then he just looks at Jesse and nods and does that. Says, go. You know, like, just go. And Jesse gets in a car and he speeds out of there. And while most of us were, we loved Walt so much because of how he was so ingenious with his ingenuity, we all knew Jesse did the right thing. Jesse escapes alive and free. He did the right thing. And he gets clean. Without any Ibogaine. Yeah, watch that one, people. Watch that one. And then watch me drop the pot in a second, because you've watched me do that now that you've looked at my Akash and stuff. You've watched how I can just drop this stuff like I'm gonna do, because I know that buying more right now is pointless. I mean, I have far more things to do before nightfall. And then that's your song, Baby Blue. There's that ending song for all the Breaking Bad fans. That ending song was pretty good. Loved you, Baby Blue. And his meth would come out a blue color. Oh, you're gonna get away with it. We all have again. But so Walt's meth would turn out blue, a sky blue color, and he couldn't quite account for the. It was like he couldn't quite account for the color. They couldn't quite account for the color exactly, but that it was still the purest crystal that they had managed to manufacture or ever seen at 99%. And actually really 99%, not lying 99%, which was what stunned everyone. And he walks over, he's in this, BS type lab. Not so bad, but, not like the lab that they started in, which is a Winnebago. It was a Winnebago. They make a lab that's a Winnebago using items like what I watched. Like, yeah, very funny. That was why I said this is so Breaking Bad, because it looked like the show. It looked like the show. Like, Jerry rigged everything. What are you doing? And so then Walt walks over, and he's holding his side, and he looks over fondly at one of the machines. The large, they look like a large steel tank of some sort with a gauge. There are many of those, I know, so don't ask me what it was, I don't know. So he pulls his hand off and puts his hand on it, and then falls down, dead. Maybe if Walt had listened to advice earlier, he wouldn't have died, and both he and Jesse would have escaped. And that was the end of Breaking Bad. One of the best series ever made, I must say. But season 3 sucked until that end part that I mentioned. So, what Cryon says is that he told me before I figured out who I was dealing with. He told me this is going to be something that is just mentally prepare yourself. at this point, doing what you know how to do in a third density fashion is the best thing for you to do. Take anything that you know right now, assemble it, file it, think about it. Think about if it was literally only you, if literally every single object disappeared, if, I'm not going to give people ideas here who might want to pop in on the action, but he told me gave me different scenarios, also said, think like Plato, and I was like, oh, okay, angles, from all angles, like, or from all sides, and their album is concentric squares, from all sides, which would make sense to some people. So, I still have more stuff to do, but I did take, I'm gonna guess maybe 10 milligrams of morphine. See, I do know that, you prefer people that are on very pure, raw kinds of diets with no drugs in their system, because they taste better. It's just like True Blood. I mean, they taste better. And from what I understood, the first go around, from what I understood, the sacrifice of such a pure spirit produced an immense amount of power that if the spirit ended up getting itself lured or willingly went into that power could be used. So, for example, Jesus knew that his energy could be used. And I'm going to say this because Cryon says this in Book 1, that he doesn't actually say Jesus didn't die on the cross. He phrases it a different way. He says Jesus would have died on the cross had they not taken him down, if they hadn't taken him down early like they did to observe and I can't remember what it was. But then I thought, wait a minute, and how the way you heal from severe, severe, severe injuries is by literally lying there like a mummy. You lie there like a mummy with your eyes closed. If what you know how to do is use your hands, and you don't know how to do it with your eyes closed like a mummy, in a meditation, you do that, you do whatever. But the strongest way to do it, once you learn how, is just literally to lie there like a mummy and meditate on what you're trying to do. So I was thinking, oh well, they used when Jesus died, they used his energy then to effect harm. But see, he would have known all of that stuff. And so then that immediately makes it not sacrilegious that he would not have completely died on the cross. He did appear to go totally unconscious, from what it seems like, totally unconscious with such a slow pulse that they didn't, the Roman guards were, either influenced by reptilians unwittingly or just not very smart themselves and wouldn't have really known how to check if someone's pulse is, say, 10 beats a minute. They didn't have anything to check that. The person would have just seemed totally dead to them. It would have seemed like no pulse. We stabbed you in the side. I mean, how are you going to live through that anyway? And you looked completely dead, so, alright, we're going to bury you now. But I don't know, I can almost explain this sort of, what Crown did say as well, Krista, what this is here, is this is way less severe than that, but, it's not like not as severe as being hung up on a cross like that, but, like with what happened with one thing, where I did actually go unconscious, almost died, actually went unconscious. I became conscious again when my reptilian adversary came in here. and just was rummaging around like a oily old man. That was the only I only saw a flash of them for a moment with my I was able to open my eyes for a moment and immediately just almost went unconscious again. And the way they arranged the way that it arranged things, he in a female human form, but it is a male reptilian in there. It's a male reptilian, and he arranged things in an altar style fashion when I woke up. I finally woke up and puked my brains out, and I thought to myself, oh my god, I almost died. And somehow I lived. And it has to do with something of that lying there like a mummy and your body knowing what to do to heal itself. It's funny that this Walter White that I have to match minds against with certain stupid daughter. Oh, Cryon says, don't say it that way, Krista. Don't get mad at her. She knows not what she does. Think about engineering and lines of lineage. Is what that's a better way to say it. You are so much harder to control, and she's far easier. She knows not what she does. Don't. You knew not what you were doing down there. Are you really the person that smashes glasses in people's doorways? Are you really that person that wants to scream in everyone's face? No, you were telling Mr. Walter White that you could actually feel a perceptible wavelength hitting you and causing you actual physical discomfort from all angles. HARP. I could actually feel it on my body. Other people couldn't. I don't know to what degree other people were aware of these things back then, but I know Walter White was. But what degree the others were, not quite sure. But one thing, to Walter White's daughter, I'm quitting all this without any ibogaine. None. You guys took it from me. Technically, it would have been what you'd call the other reptilian. But you guys are all like one mind half the time in Linux type or Unix type shells because you guys practically programmed it on yourselves. So, you want to think you're better or something? I don't need ibogaine anymore. But you definitely do. You're still trying to get off. Or it's either you're still trying to get off, or that you managed to, but it's trying to take booster doses, trying to avoid the relapses. But people are literally watching me do this. That's part of the reason that this trial happens to be here at this time. When I took out what I would take today, I went 26 hours. And only took more because I knew, Krista, Grandmother Owl, Grandmother Great Horned Owl, she will strike when the iron is hot. When you are weaker, she will strike. You know that. Don't allow that. So I thought, okay, well, I'll take some, but in order to increase my functionality, because lying down here does me no good in attempting to control the variables of the environment. Every game is built off a system of rules. In the Illinois Chronicles, what what the adversary says is if you can figure out those rules, you can win the game. And there's one major set of rules that Cryon said, you noticed this. You noticed this if, if you really get yourself into a situation, there is stuff that you can do that will help. Plus, this kind of forces me to do stuff that I needed to do. There were things that I needed to do that I knew I had to do, but I just hadn't done them because, well, one, they're incredibly strange things to do. Like if you walk into a person's house and saw it, you can't see it from this angle if you're watching on the camera. But it's like, you'd think, what are you doing? And I would say, well, it's physics, is what I would say. I'm sorry, it's physics here. I have to do this. And being warned about particular things, being warned about a different degree of challenge that this might be like, basically. But he said something a week ago, one week ago, he said something, and maybe this is literally what he meant. No. I've decided I'm going to call these videos when I know that something's going to happen like this, or I have a I figure out the ploy ahead of time. This is going to be called Assassination Nation. I don't know. I just figured out that that rhyme because this is becoming, a freaking assassination nation, and we need the me's out there to survive the assassination nation. And once again, well, there's Cryon's trick 1, which is leave everything behind. It repeatedly imagined that literally everything disappeared, and you had to function with literally only your person, only what you literally had on your body, and that you had to somehow manage to protect yourself if the strange things that they will do get done to you. If you had no tools, no ability, no frequency type tools, nothing, and you had to just do it with your mind. I would get told to do things, or do this, and I would have an inkling of an idea why, and I realized I was right, but it's always Cryon that comes in to make sure my life is saved. So yes, I can, let her hang out with her Cryon friend, and she'll be dead in whatever, however long. No, no. And I'm not going to mention something because it might give people ideas, but Cryon says, Krista, that event that happened, that you realized, oh, geez, you actually fell for something where you could have done something else, and you gave them an advantage by doing what you did, but that's actually going to be an advantage in your favor. And I think, okay, oh my god, that sounds a little scary. And everything that sucks that happens to me here, it seems that it somehow makes me either more adept, stronger, or otherwise of better resolve, other things like that. And I just wish, like John Lennon said, imagine though, I will never, ever beg for my life. Ever. Because no true philosopher is afraid of death, and the unexamined life is not worth living. Yeah, Plato was kind of like that. He was more sophisticated, though. So, I'll get back to more with the frickin' house. 'Cause I know I won't like it if I don't at least do multiple things. When, whatever the heck. Whatever it is. Fortunately, I've noticed that people can't quite always hear what Cryon is saying to me, which is an advantage. Like in the Screwtape Letters, you can't always quite hear what he says to them. You know, if the devils talking to each other. And I've learned to not say at all what he says to me. Except for a few things. So I wish it could be different. But with the reptilian guy, we're gonna read your email somehow. But first I have to make sure everything everything is operational within my system. So I'll talk to you later with Arcturian Philosophy. I will talk to you all later because I will survive this. Whatever comes, I will survive it, and I will thrive from it. Be blessed.